Good afternoon. Hope everyone's well. Just going to go through our normal checks, check everything is working okay. Just going to wave my hands in front of there so we can know there's movement. Hope everyone's well. Just going to go through. Right. Yeah, we're on a different computer, and this might be. Just going to check my seat. Near Thomas the Woodcarver's in the background there. So it's pronounced there from him and pronounced there from me. Yeah, I'm on a different computer today because this might be the last live stream that I do for a little while. I'm hoping not. And the reason I'm on a different computer is because this is the one that I take with me when we travel to see my wife's family. And hopefully all going well, we're hoping to be able to do that. So next Monday, there won't be a live stream next Monday because we will be traveling. And hopefully then after that, I may get to find where I can use some Wi-Fi. And I got a few ideas for what I might do as a live stream while we are away. So to share some different things with you. But if not, it may be a few weeks before I'm able to do some live streams again. So apologies for that. We will be doing different video uploads and there will be stuff going on the channel throughout the next month. So for those of you who enjoy our content, which I hope you do, you'll be able to see what we're up to. So focusing on today's live stream, I was toying with actually doing, well, something that I will do as a live stream in the coming weeks and months when I get a chance is to do another one on the scroll saw again, because I know the scroll saw ones were popular. The only issue with doing the scroll saw ones is sorting out the sound because of the sound of the machine, that sort of thing, and we can't sort of talk over it as much because we're working as we're doing the things. This one here then, I nearly did do it today's on the scroll saw, but I chose to do this instead. And what I'm basically doing is sorting out this week as many of the bespoke love spoons as we got left over. So it's a bit of a busy week for us really, but it's getting the different love spoons now ready just in case people do contact us while we're not here. The wood that we're using for this one is a piece of oak. As you can see, I'm just starting on the daffodil. So that's where we're starting with this one, is in the centre on that daffodil. And we're just doing our stop cuts and the detail for it. So for those of you who are interested in the wood carving and learning the wood carving, which hopefully a lot of you are, this is basically the process that you will have seen us demonstrating, that we use, that we teach, and that we share with everybody. So we do those stop cuts down into the wood itself. We then use the stop cut as a barrier, and we just cut into that stop cut, and that allows us to have the different bits of detail. Now, as you can see for this one, I do believe it is recording a wedding. There is a link then with Sri Lanka. So the one at the top there, it's the Sri Lankan lion. So that's what we got, the carving at the top there, our sort of main carving. Hello, the carver. I'm interested in wood carving. Glad to hear it. Hope you've had a good week. Hope all's going well. Hope you're back into the stock making. It'll be good to see what you're up to and what you're making. And how things are going generally. Yeah, we're on a bit of a crazy few weeks. Time seems to get shorter and shorter. We just don't seem to have enough time when we're working on a deadline. I don't know what it was like for yourself when you were planning for your vacations. But I always find it that when I know I'm going away, I always feel for a few weeks as if I haven't got enough time to do the things that I want to do in terms of getting prepared. So you can see, we're going through this when we're doing the different parts of the design. So far, the wood itself is carving nicely, which helps. Always nice if you've got a nice piece of wood. And we're making some good progress. As I mentioned, we got the daffodil, because there's a Welsh link, but then we got the Sri Lankan lion. And that's something that we haven't carved before, done similar carvings, but I thought...
Thomas the woodcarver is coming across.
Oh, here we are.
And I'm going to interrupt you, Dave.
Right, what have you got to show everyone?
This is...
This is part of the Mad Rush.
Mahogany.
So put it in front of the camera there.
Come on camera.
Sorry, Rob. Mostly, I'm just interested in anything to do with woods. I have sycamore on the sawmill slice up later today. Brilliant.
Right. Well,
fantastic.
This particular piece.
Put it flat on the spoon there, did
was
sort of
from,
focus better.
Okay.
Yeah.
An old mantel shelf.
Yeah, you can see it.
And I actually put this in my sister's house when I was an apprentice.
Oh wow!
Over 50 years ago.
Oh, so these are stories I didn't realise.
Okay.
So,
this was Auntie Marilyn's house.
Yeah.
The first house in my road, Taftswell.
Yeah.
And I think it was an electric fire they had, but they wanted a wooden mantel shelf.
Wow.
So I put that in as a mantel shelf, and now of course.
So
when she moved, they
took the mantelpiece.
They took this particular piece of wood with them.
Brilliant.
And that's how I've got it.
Fantastic.
And that's over 50 years ago, Dave. That's well over 50 years ago.
And now
it's
getting us out of a bit of trouble this week then.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay.
Wow. Beautiful.
I think it's utility.
Fantastic.
It's I mean there are more than 1,000 different types of mahogany, and so you know
the carver agrees. Just said to us, a beautiful bit of wood.
Yeah,
absolutely
and
spot
so
on.
What I'm making now, I've sanded it down, and
look at that.
Just for anybody's interest, how we do it. This is the drawing you asked. We've got mahogany on there, so that one there from that piece of mantel shelf, well over 50 years. I'm going to make that.
We're going to make that cat-themed Lovespoon on
yeah.
it. This one here, then, see, to give you the background on that, that is a standard design that we do on our online shop. And yesterday, I was going through the online shop to see our situation with the stock, and I found out that we've actually got none of them.
One I prepared earlier.
And so
but it's the same wood.
There you go. Same wood, and that's with the design then stuck on, yeah. And then we'll work from there.
Just for everyone to see.
And we do the same on that
we
one.
had.
Yeah.
Going to be stuck on there now, and we'll hopefully have two.
This is very. For those of you in America, you won't know this reference, but for those of you in the UK, it's very Blue Peter-esque, isn't it? Here's one
I prepared earlier.
One you prepared earlier. There was a children's program, very famous. I think it is still running here. Just about, and called Blue Peter, and they were famous when they'd show the children making how to make something. They'd always miraculously produce one that they'd prepared earlier.
And of course, at that, 50 years ago, utility, it was reasonably plentiful.
Yeah.
And you can see that that's what I did all that time ago.
Wow. So
there we are.
The history behind the spoons.
And of course, it's the wonderful thing with wood. We recycle.
Yeah, and there's always a story.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing. There's always a story. And I love hearing as well. It's great hearing from yourselves because it's the same thing. I know with the carver, there's always a story in terms of how you got the wood, where it came from, these sorts of things. Yeah, and anyone joining us as well, let us know where do you get your wood from, and we're always fascinated to know what projects are you working on. So let us know. It's always great to know what everybody else is up to. So you can see I'm going straight in to focus on this Sri Lankan lion. Interestingly, now I can't remember. I did one Lovespoon. Oh, hello, Tommy. Tommy's Workshop joining us as well. Thanks for joining us. I did I did a Lion King themed love spoon for my son, but other than that, I never really remember us. Hang on, I'm thinking now, there's a few other spoons coming to mind where we put lions on them, but basically what I was going to say is that we've had a run on people asking us to do love spoons with lions on. So we had a request for a Persian lion. That was nice because it was very detailed. Similar to this one, only I would suggest it was a bit more elaborate than this. We had another request then recently for the English lion, and that's still waiting. That'll be waiting here until September. And now we've had this one with the Sri Lankan lion. It's always nice to see the different designs, the different styles, and to carve the different things. This in many ways is the slightly more, I would say slightly more simple design, but it's nice in its own way. And it is an impression then of the Sri Lankan lion. So with that link, with this particular love spoon having a Sri Lankan link, it's got that significance. So far, yeah, that piece of wood is carving nicely. So you can see we're going to work on all of these little bits of detail. One of the most detailed bits of this particular carving is going to be getting this sword, getting that sword right. So that's going to sort of, that's the handle, just above the handle, sorry, of the sword. So we've got to get that working its way into that part of the sword. And we've then got to get those hands, the hand of the lion, wrapping around the handle itself. And then the bottom here, this will be pushed behind. So it's those processes we're always going through, just deciding which bits to push back and which bits to bring out. As we're using a new computer as well, let us know if there are any technical issues. From what I can see, everything looks to be pretty good actually, so happy with what we're getting on this. And that is my plan, as I mentioned. Whilst we're away, I am hoping that we'll be able to get some live streams, probably not next Monday because that day we will be traveling, but if we do get a chance on some of the other days while we're away, we get some live streams and go through some things that we might not have chance otherwise to go through. I think we've got somebody just coming to the workshop here, so we'll continue with the live stream when somebody comes to the shop. So we're just starting to go through that detail. And what I always sort of say on that front is when it comes to doing carvings like this, as much as we can, we stick to the design. However, always remember it's an impression. That's what Dad always says, an impression of that particular lion. And you've got to accept that your gouges, your tools may not be able to do the exact specific lines, but you can still work out trying to get the best version of that individual impression. So we're just working around the neck, some quite detailed parts to this design, but nice to carve, good fun. Some of the different things then, we're going to try and get a few different things filmed before we go. So we'll be working on editing those while we're away. I was going to do a little bit of a focus on some of the other machines that we have in the workshop and the reasons then for it. So there's probably about 5 or 6 machines that we have here in the workshop that do a job of accompanying our main 2 things, which is of course the hand carving and the scroll sorting. So that was the idea, is to just go through the reasons for it, things like the pillar drill, not so much the routers, but then we got things like the oscillating sander, the what else, the bandsaw. That's always a good one. And that's always an interesting one in terms of a point of discussion. There we are, because we use a scroll saw a lot, but we also use a bandsaw. And there's always a little bit of a debate So I know, for instance, Jerry, who supports our channel and is a long-established scroll sorter, was explaining on one of our videos how he doesn't use the bandsaw because of the extra time involved in sanding afterwards to get the saw lines out. So for Jerry, because his background and his expertise is in scroll sawing, he actually finds it quicker to scroll saw the job entirely as opposed to using a bandsaw. Ourselves then, we have a slightly different approach where we use predominantly the scroll saw, but we still feel that the bandsaw does have a place, and there are certain areas where we still find it quicker to bandsaw and use the belt sander as well. Prynawn da! Hello Ben, thank you for joining us. So yeah, you can see across the side here, that's been cut on the bandsaw.
I can interrupt again, Dave.
Here we are. No, brilliant. More than welcome to.
Obviously, because I'm preparing
Wood for spoons.
some of the spoons, yeah. This one here now, for instance,
Another bit of mahogany.
it's a different piece of mahogany, this one, okay? But something for people to look towards. I'm looking to prepare it, and I can see there it's either a knot, because it's recycled, you see.
Could be a little pin.
It could be a nail or a pinhole.
But you'll also be investigating.
I'm going to have to investigate that, before.
So we would be dubious seeing that. The first thing that the main concern we'd have, is it a wood-boring insect? That would be our concern. So we wouldn't want to be working with that until we've established what it actually is.
Because that will make that drawing. Look, that drawing there will. This is the spoon that we're going to put on there, possibly. So we could get. I may be able to get away with that, but I'm going to investigate that a little bit further.
Yeah.
I'm going to gouge it out and see, or you're going to do it for me.
I'm going to have a little look. Inconclusive.
It looks like a knot.
It looks like a knot to me. You don't think somebody's filled it?
I don't know. That's curious, isn't it?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to investigate this a bit further. If you handed that to me and said, look, I noticed this in it and I've done a bit of work on it, I don't think it's wood boring. I tell you why I don't think it's wood boring is because it's solid.
Yeah.
Like if it's wood boring, as you'll probably all know, it'll be a little bit soft, and that seems.
Oh, it would be hollow.
It would be hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really curious.
Yeah.
So
what I'm going to do, I'm going to plane that down.
What is that? I would say it's a knot.
Yeah.
It's a little wow. Any thoughts? Any thoughts, everybody else? Because that looks to me.
Ah, look, turned over.
What is it?
There it is.
Ah, there we are. Look, there we are. Mystery solved. It is. It's a knot.
It's a knot, and you
It's
can
a little
see
tiny
a little
knot.
split.
You can see a split on the knot. Well, well, well. That's a tiny knot for mahogany.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So the best thing is to avoid that.
Yeah. So just
I know we could what we call get away with it.
Yeah.
But rather than give us problems, because it's going to be right near the spoon, the bowl of the spoon.
I'm looking for a gouge. Have you picked up one of my gouges?
Have I picked up a gouge?
The one that was just here.
Not that one.
And no, anybody spot where I put that? Anyone eagle-eyed spot what I did with the gouge?
That's Thomas the Woodcarving interrupting, you see.
I picked it up and I must have put it back. No, no.
Oh, look, I found a penny. Oh, that's something.
I thought you found the gouge.
No.
Where's that gone? It's the gouge that's in between those two. Well, well, well. Hang on, I put it here. That's it. It's my fault. I may be in and out during the stream. We're on the road to some mandatory family fun. Sounds great. Signal's a bit sketchy in the mountains. Oh, well, I hope you have a nice time. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And that's what's that's my concerns with the streams is finding reliable Wi-Fi. If I can get reliable Wi-Fi over the next few weeks, I will definitely be doing some live streams. But that's That's one of my missions that I'm going to be trying to sort out, is some decent quality, reliable Wi-Fi. But no, thanks for joining us, and thank you all for joining us. So there we are. That's a little insight there again with Dad, what he's doing. So because I'm basically trying to get as much done before I'm away, he's sorting out all of that wood then, so we can sort of crack on with making as much stock. Because basically, what I try to do before I go away is to give him plenty of stock, that if different spoons are ordered, we're prepared for it basically. But that doesn't always work out. And what you tend to find is whatever you prepare, you'll prepare as much as possible, and you'll still have something will still be a bit of an issue, where somebody will want something, or you'll have, say, more than you expected of a particular design. It's not a big deal. We just take it off the online shop until we're back, and we can carve some more. And in terms of then with the website, we've been continually updating that, but recently there was a big update that we had on it. Nothing on face value would have changed, but it's the administration changed quite dramatically with the WooCommerce, that sort of thing. But all good, because it improves the site and it improves what we're doing. Good fun, and it's good to be busy. We're glad that things are happening. I mean, thinking back since we started doing the live streams, the workshop here has changed dramatically throughout the last sort of 18 months, and it's a sign of the times. It's a sign of the situation, but it's been an opportunity for us to explore and develop what we do as a family workshop in different ways. And I think what we're tending to be doing now is developing our family workshop in some ways, in different ways, but to suit what we try to do, and to suit the sort of the way we organize things now, because we're seeing a lot less visitors because of COVID and this sort of thing, and so we're having to respond to that and do things slightly differently. Thomas Woodcarve's just come back in. How was the knot? Did you sort it out there?
Well,
gonna have to work around it.
Bit of a pun, but it's not. It's not playing ball at the moment.
No, that's what you find, and what you got to do, you got to adapt, change what you're doing. Excuse me, just having a quick drink there. Yeah, change what you're doing, adapt it.
That particular piece of wood,
Smallest.
I'm better off to make a spoon that will clear it rather than.
So that house design, that will just about avoid it, won't it?
Well, it will, but rather than just avoid it, I'd rather make something else
smaller again.
Out of that,
That's what we're doing. See, whenever we look at a piece of wood, so if you're interested, if you're interested, but for any of you who are learning what we do with a piece of wood, we're always looking, how do we get the most out of an individual piece of wood, and that's an important part of the process.
I know sometimes it sort of it seems that you're spending a lot of time, searching for in between the.
Well, I think we're walking into a very interesting topic for the day on our live stream. Preparation again.
Yeah.
I think if you get it wrong, now you take this. This is a number of hours. I mean, I started preparing this Lovespoon over the weekend, and I spent a lot of the weekend preparing this Lovespoon for the live stream. Now, if we, because there's myself involved in that process, there's Dad involved in that process, if either of us get it wrong in the preparation, we're going to be paying for that for the whole duration of making that spoon. So I think that is a really relevant point. Is
It's like the rule. One of the first rules I used in my apprentice. It was measure twice,
cut once. Yeah,
and that principle.
and it's and I would say that Dad is he's more careful than myself, and that trait is a good thing, because you can easily get yourself into trouble because you've sort of measured the job out, and you haven't spotted something. I think it's modern society, the modern world we live in. Everything is in a bit of a rush, and it's jobs like that, marking it out. I think any job, when it comes to working with wood, you've got to be careful rushing.
An interesting one when I was doing my apprenticeship was a simple thing like making a door, a panel door.
Yeah.
You'd make perhaps 5 or 6 doors at a time. I mean, some of them used to make hundreds of it at a time, depending if it was a big joinery firm. But whereas my apprenticeship was in more maintenance, we didn't make large quantities. It was sort of smaller quantities. But I can remember measuring out, marking out for some doors, and
You made a little mistake, didn't you?
I think I made 10.
You made a little mistake.
10 left hands, thinking that I'd made 5 left and 5 right. I ended up with 10 left hand styles. Well, of course,
You needed 5 and 5.
I needed 5 and 5.
So you've done a great job,
But it was good.
but not
because
for,
my
not for the
apprenticeship,
job.
I learned to make sure we did a left and a right,
Yeah.
a top and a bottom, and maybe a middle. All things you had to learn. That was the advantage of an apprenticeship.
And that's the time to make the mistake, isn't it?
A shame today that the apprenticeship scheme is not.
What it once was.
That's right.
And interestingly, on that point, same with myself. I remember years ago designing a Lovespoon, and it would have been the sort of first time that I designed something, and when I folded the page, something went wrong, and the bowl was a bit wonky, shall we say.
Yeah.
And so you learn from that, and now whenever I fold the page on a design, I always check it and double check it. I'll use a ruler to check that the line is still perfect all the way down. Another time I designed a larger spoon, larger than our standard, and I used the same principles of design that I would use for a smaller spoon, but because it was larger, I didn't allow for the extra width, the extra thickness required in the design, and ultimately the Lovespoon broke.
I know it's not. It isn't something you.
But
want to do.
that teaches you. We were working on a larger spoon recently, and I made sure that one for that gentleman that we were working on. I made sure that the design had as much strength as was possible. But
and also
it's a learning curve.
It's frustrating when you make a mistake.
You-
I used to say
you remember it,
in
didn't you?
apprenticeship, if you don't make a mistake, you won't learn anything.
That's right. Yeah.
So
And we're making mistakes all the time. I think I give you an idea just on this Lovespoon. So we're demonstrating this Lovespoon, trying to help you out, thinking of different ideas that may be relevant to you. Now, when I'm carving here, and I bring Thomas the Woodcarver back in, when I'm carving there, there's a little bit of detail, and I'm extremely cautious and nervous about carving that little bit there.
Right.
Could you see it?
Yeah.
And that's experience. That's experience, because that is the sort of thing, and even with experience, I am conscious of that little bit of detail. It's the bottom jaw is delicate, and so I'm very nervous of that one. And so that is a bit of experience, at play. But even with experience, that's the real. What can I describe it as? That I'm not going to be comfortable with that particular part of the carving until it's done, because it's delicate. That's delicate work. So we go at it very cautiously, but you're not going to be comfortable. Oh, the carver's on it. I get that. I'm pretty good at eyeing something and getting down close, but the down close only works well with two things: horseshoes and hand grenades. It's one of those, yeah, it is one of those things where we can get away with it a little bit, I suppose, with hand carving, because today, of course, there's an argument for not having complete, perfect accuracy. I mean, we're always sort of striving for that, but in some ways, is that right? Should we be striving for that? Because the closer we get to our carvings being perfect, the more similar that it gets to the carvings that are being done on CNCs. So it's an interesting debate, interesting sort of idea that perhaps we shouldn't worry about it as much. My wonky spoon that I carve, perhaps that's more a bit more genuine hand carved in terms of it has that quirk. Perhaps what I'm getting at is maybe we should be celebrating it as opposed to worrying about it. So you can see we're just working our way around, pushing the body behind what would be like the mane of the lion. So we're just bringing out bits of detail, that sort of thing. And it's always nice getting rid of that paper drawing, seeing that beautiful wood underneath. So as we're going along, we're just shaping, getting that depth. So whenever I'm doing these carvings, I'm always thinking that I got to get enough depth where when I sand it afterwards on the belt sander, so I'll take all of the paper drawing away. When I'm doing that, I'm always trying to get enough depth on the carving that's not going to be a problem. The Sri Lankan lion, of course, one that we're familiar with because it's on the flag, and you see it, where we see it here is with the cricket team when they come across, or when the cricket team is across there playing them. So not the first time that I've seen it, and it's quite an elaborate flag that they've got, the Sri Lankans, but it's very appropriate for this particular Lovespoon. So we're just getting a little bit of depth. I just feel that hand needs a little bit more work. We should always strive for perfection, but embrace imperfections when they occur. Yeah, spot on. We're always, pushing for that, getting it as perfect as we can. But sometimes you do think, is it the right approach to take, or should we not worry quite so much when it comes to those little, what we would refer to as little quirks? I don't know, is that a colloquial term? Is that a term that is used widely? Quirky little bits, we describe it as, those bits of individual character. And that's the nice thing, again, with the Lovespoon, you really can sort of cater for individuality. So you can see we're just bringing that down, but I'm very conscious when I'm working here that is a very, very delicate part of the design. So because the bottom jaw is sort of freestanding, so it's not attached. If it was attached to the top jaw, like with the when we do the dragon, you'd have that extra bit of strength. But because that bottom jaw, is free from the top jaw. Why am I having problems? I'm having problems with the word jaw today. You just have to go quite slowly, steadily, and just take that depth down bit by bit. Now what I'm going to do then, we're going to just come around the top of the head of the lion. And then I'm just going to take that line out, and then I'm going to concentrate on a little bit of detail. So the eye is always important. So we get that in place, like so. And this is a tiny, tiny little gouge that we're working with. Little micro gouge. But it's amazing how much that helps us out. So for instance, we've got this date going across the top, and the S and the T, excuse me, that will all be done with this one here. I get what you're saying about the quirkiness, but I can only speak for me. Yeah, I mean, it's those little how can I explain? It just gives it that bit of individuality. So without those tiny little imperfections in some ways, it would be that much more bland when it comes to the final carving. So we've got what would be like an eyebrow, but it's like a lightning strike, something along those lines. And we'll just work our way across. I can hear footsteps. Hello, Sammy. This is my youngest son's just walked in the workshop. He's got his welly boots on, and you hold him. What do you got there? 2 doggies? Yeah. Yeah, he's got 2 doggies. There we are. Yeah. So we've got 2 doggies, and he's in his wellies, and he spotted that his Uncle Matt has just come back. Now, Sammy, how old are you, Sammy? You're 4, and you know how to do the carving, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, watch out for Daddy's tripod. Don't knock that one.
Daddy,
there we are.
How do you put this back on?
Oh, I'm not sure. So you can see what we're doing with the carving. We're just carving the little bit of detail on the face of the lion. And we're getting the different detail going. We're getting the detail done on the individual carving. And afterwards, then we'll go back. Afterwards, we'll go back we'll go back and try and get the rest of the detail done. So we're just getting little bits of detail sorted on the face itself, and then afterwards we go on to doing the S and the H, and we'll also do the daffodil as well. So it's coming on. We're making progress here. You'll have just heard in the background as well, Thomas the Woodcarver's gone on to, he's gone on the, by the sounds of it, he's on the coronet in the background. So he's working on getting some wood together for those different projects. As I mentioned at the start, it's going to be a busy week of getting plenty of things prepared. Yeah, this is my father-in-law's joined us. Que sí. Un poco tiempo, pero nos vamos a ver. He's just saying that it's a lot of work for those of you, but it is, but it's a nice little carving to get done. Right, so we're going to turn it round in the vise. And that's because I sit to carve. No right or wrong when it comes to standing and sitting. It's whatever you're more comfortable with, what you find suits yourself best. And we just turn it round, and that helps then, just helps to progress the particular carving. This back leg then, I'm going to just separate the 2 feet from one another, and we're going to push the back leg, I'm going to push that right down, so you just make it a little bit more clear that that is the back leg. And then that front leg will just come in front. We've got the 2 front legs, so they will be higher in the carving, and the back leg will push that back down into the carving. Just again, when it comes to the different projects that we do, you're trying to get it almost, what can we say, multi-layered, to sort of give it that more of a 3-dimensional feel to it. So you've got that marked out with a vertical grain, and then you're just deciding which bits to push down, which bits to bring out, and in what way you can go about doing that. And this is the thing, this is our process of hand carving, and you've got all of those different things then that you've got to accommodate. So because we put that paper drawing on there to get started, we have to make sure that the whole carving is pushed down low enough, so when we take the paper off afterwards, it doesn't actually take off all the detail. Sometimes we have to go back over the carving because some of the detail gets lost, but we try our best to push the carving down enough because it just saves us a bit of time afterwards when it comes to the finishing. How are we getting on? Thomas Woodcarver's still is that the piece of wood you were showing?
Yeah, I've got the
Have you managed to get it
I've
where
got 3 pieces now that we can use, yeah.
good. I think that's a big part really of wood carving. Oh, Arthur Leonard. Arthur, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. I hope it's useful. It looks a lot of work, but it is rewarding. Yes, spot on from the carver as well. Yeah, thanks for joining us as well, Arthur. Great to have everybody join us. Hopefully it's interesting. Hopefully it's useful. We're just doing some carving on this. It's the Sri Lankan lion. So because we do bespoke spoons, for anyone who's not familiar with what we do, we can incorporate all sorts of designs, and that's the beauty of the Lovespoon tradition. If anyone's interested in wood carving and looking at different projects to take on, that is one of the great bits about the Lovespoon, the Welsh Lovespoon that we're involved with then. You can incorporate and include all sorts of different symbols and ideas into it. So this one, it has a Welsh Sri Lankan link. So you've got one half of the couple obviously of Welsh heritage, the other half of the couple then of Sri Lankan heritage. So you can tie those things in together and then create a design then that very much becomes personal to them as a couple, and you can sort of tell their story. So you've got the date then, I assume, of their wedding, their initials in 2 hearts are entwined together. Also then, we think about different processes. So the Sri Lankan lion has been given that place at the top because, of course, it's a Welsh love spoon, so you have that Welsh link, but we've given that Sri Lankan lion the place on the top of the spoon, but it's linked to those 2 hearts because it's part of the heritage. The daffodil, again, linked to the 2 hearts being the Welsh heritage. And then below we have a Celtic eternity sign representing eternal love, eternal life, and then a twist on the stem which represents binding and growing together. So that's what we love about this tradition. It's fantastic for storytelling, and you really can make it unique to the individual and to the couple. I had a feeling that Thomas Woodcarver was going to come in and tell us something, eh? Was I right or was I wrong?
Possibly. You
Right?
could be right. Yes, you.
You're teasing us with it.
Yeah.
You're working out a lot this afternoon. I get the impression that there's a lot of working.
I'm trying all this out then.
I'm getting the impression with Thomas Woodcarver this afternoon that the cogs are working there.
Yeah. I'm quite happy with the way
This is
these spoons are going.
This is another then video that we have got planned for the future. It's just we keep forgetting to film it. And that is to go through the process of how we prepare wood for projects, because it's something that we've in some ways neglected on the channel. We have, we've talked about it on live streams and we have alluded to it, but we haven't done a dedicated video where we show that process. And it's or if we have, it was from a bit of a while ago, and it is one that's worth revisiting, isn't it? Because there's a lot to it.
I think we discussed.
I think we discuss it regularly, but it's
Something we did discuss was wood carving for your mental health.
oh yeah, that's something that we
That
have
was
discussed at length.
One
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's what was on my mind. Wood carving, because it's such a lovely subject. Wood.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can.
And we continue, don't we? We have people coming in. That's why we run an open workshop. We still have people coming in, and they share their story with us, share their journey, and we continue then to try and help people, with their wood, with their carving, and with what they're doing.
Sometimes working out your problems, working out your frustrations. Even you can get more frustrated sometimes when you're doing carving. I know, but. It is good for your mental health because you're thinking about the timber, how the tree grew, and like I said about that piece of wood. Now, 50 years ago, I did that job, and here I am using that same wood again.
There's an interesting few comments here from the carver. Sounds like a few telephone issues that he's had, but there's a more important one that he's asked at the end there. He's got a question for yourself.
Yeah.
It's an important one, and it's one that sort of this is something that he's just reminded me of. He wants to know how's the ankle.
Oh, you must be alright because I've forgotten all about it.
Yeah, same here. We'd forgotten about it. It went up like a balloon.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you for thinking about it. It's,
Because it's very interesting.
I think what happened, we keep a few chickens out the back, and we've also had a problem with a mole. So of course, put the two together, the mole builds this molehill and softens the ground. The chickens then scratch where the mole has been, and in the summertime, of course, the grass grows over it, so you don't know where that hole is. And I think that's how I probably sprained my ankle.
So I thought,
Okay, there we are. We'll be there.
as Sammy's contribution to the live stream, I'll be honest, it was my mental health that started me down the road to learning carving. Brilliant, yeah. It's a fantastic. It's fantastic to get involved, from that point of view, because it is such a. It's an absorbing pastime, interest, hobby, but it can develop. So if it's what you enjoy doing, then you can develop it, and it can really become a real. Well, let's choose a symbol we use a lot in our love spoons. It can become like an anchor, and it can give stability. And so that is why it really is, something fantastic to pursue. And there's always something with it. There's always, you're developing, you're trying different things. I was working out the other day how many times now I've carved in the last couple of years since I changed the style that I do the Welsh dragon. I was trying to work out, well, how many times have I actually carved that Welsh dragon? And I reckon we say a lot, but it probably goes into the hundreds, which is, again, it's a good thing, because as you're doing that, it starts to become second nature. And I'm now at the stage, because that was such an intricate carving, we always draw that design onto the wood itself, and because we're doing that, we basically, it takes a little bit longer then, because you need all those details. What I find now is I end up completely carving away all the bits of detail before I start really into the carving, because I know where all of the stock cuts go. And that's how we quite often judge a carving, is once you know it off by heart. Ankle's better choice than passion. Yeah, I think it's. I think it is something you have to be passionate about, definitely. And I think it can become a real anchor where, with this, because it's our working life, we're sort of organising around our carving. But we still enjoy it. We still love doing it. Still love sharing it, and hopefully, others can benefit from it. So you can just see we're just getting little bits of detail. Gonna have to go again carefully on all these bits of detail, because they're quite close together, and it will be easy for this to end up a little bit of a mess, if I'm being honest. So we're just gonna go carefully as we go along. It's been an eventful live stream. We've had Sammy in here, we've had my father-in-law in here, we've had some input from Thomas the woodcarver too. It's always great to have all the different things going on. That's what our idea of bringing the workshop, our family workshop, live to you all, that's the idea behind it. The interesting thing then with this carving is the lion on here, that is the unknown quantity. So whenever I'm sort of making judgments for when the customer's asking you for a price, how much is it going to cost to carve this? This is the one that is the unknown quantity. So you're always budgeting a little bit more for carving the lion than some of the other carvings, because I have a better idea. So for instance, the time it takes to do entwined hearts, I can get that done, you know, roughly down, I know that roughly down to within a few minutes, depending on the woods. I roughly know the time scale involved in carving that. When it comes to then the daffodil, same again, because we carve it frequently, I can pretty much have a good idea of how long that is going to take us to carve, roughly down to the last, you know, roughly down to the minute itself. The lion, that is the unknown quantity when it comes to this carving. So we're just starting now to take off the last bit of paper. We go back over the stop cuts. So you can see we take the paper off, re-establish the stop cuts where we've cut into the woods. And then that, hopefully, there's some sanding to do, but hopefully that'll be job done when it comes to the lion. And then last week as well, our live stream, our big spoon, that is now that's now on the board, ready for shellacking. That was a bit of a marathon task. Wasn't an easy job because of all of those individual names. I'll give you an idea what we do when it comes to pricing with doing letters, numbers, initials, names. We include 2 initials in the price of our spoons, but any extra, we charge at a rate of 50p per letter or number. So it's just to give you an idea of how we see it in terms of time scale. It's time consuming is basically what I'm getting at.
There we are.
So we're just going over it's coming on. What do you think, Thomas the Woodcarver? We get a second idea on this one.
I must confess, you know, my patience isn't what it used to be, I'm afraid. To tackle something like that now is I'm quite happy to prepare things and leave you to do the
It's interesting actually, because I mean, I would regard it as, I mean, some of the jobs you did over the years, the patience involved with those, you have to show everyone that chain. God, blimey heck. That must have been, when you're doing some of those jobs, when you were doing some of your earlier Lovespoons, you must have reached certain points where you'd been working on them for a week and you're thinking, I haven't got anywhere yet.
Well, I used to look at the floor to see if there were any shavings down there.
Ah,
You know.
good guides, good way of doing it. Because there must have been, do you remember, do any of the jobs, I know what happens is that once you've finished a job, the time scale fades into the background, doesn't it? You tend to think about the finished job and forget the struggle, don't you? Is that the right way of putting it?
Yeah.
Are there any that really stick in your mind?
Oh boys, yeah, quite a few. You could think, you know, you could.
I tell you what then, for today's live stream, pick out one of the spoons, and if you can bring it across to show everybody and explain a little bit of the struggle behind it. Is that possible? Do you think there's one that comes to mind?
Well, I suppose it's the first one as well, you know, because
The first one.
It's all about a confidence thing, you know.
There you go.
And, you know, it's a simple thing really, but you know.
Well, this is very, very much embodiment of what we're talking about, because on face value, that's a really simple Lovespoon, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you decided to do a raised heart.
Yeah.
So that's how to make it 10 times more difficult, isn't it?
That's right.
Did you think when you were doing that, never asked you this one, did you think when you were doing it that it would be quite a simple thing to do, the raised heart like that? Or did you just have that in mind and that was the way you wanted to do it and that was that?
Yeah, it was just, you know, it was a slight sort of, it gave it just that little bit more character.
Yeah.
But you were learning how to carve away the wood that you didn't want without doing too much then, you know?
I'm going to use a bit of the carver's sandpaper that he sent us.
I think something else that was on my mind after that, you know, it's good for your mental health, wood carving. It's just wood trees in general. But something else that's been playing on my mind a little bit is the antique world.
Yeah.
It's something that
It's an alien world to us.
it is, and it's something that I've always avoided.
We've come in a roundabout way into contact with it, haven't we? Because for sourcing the wood.
Yeah.
And we can never understand it because some of the furniture we bought is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And according to the antiques world, there's no value in it.
That's right.
Strange.
However,
Yeah.
you see other aspects of the antique world where you think,
How is that worth that?
how is it worth what people are asking?
Yeah.
And yet apparently people out there are paying. I've never understood. That's why I've never got involved with it. A couple of times over the years, people have asked me to do different things with various antiques, and I just, yeah, you know, there seems to be a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for you, Dave?
I think there's...
Deceit?
I think there's a different world with it where
I know
there's...
beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I reckon.
I think values are put on things. That's also on the large information card about the shop. Which one's that now, sorry? Oh, you'll have to elaborate on that one for
the
us.
Lovespoon. The Lovespoon. See what I mean? That's the...
Ah, yeah, you're spot on. That one's on our... Yeah, no, we're with you. We're with you again.
Yeah, there it is, Dave.
That's on the leaflet, you're spot on. Yeah, we use it a lot because it's the original that Dad did. Yeah, the antiques world, I think they do place value. I think for us as wood carvers, sometimes... Yeah.
That's the one side.
And that's the other side. That's our old leaflet. We've updated that since. Yeah.
But I think the spoon is still on the new one.
It's on the new one as well. We've always used that one because it's the original.
Yeah, and it is the most important one for us.
No, I think that for us as wood carvers, I think that values are placed on things, and sometimes it's quite confusing because I suppose we judge a lot of stuff in terms of the understanding. Would it be empathy with the maker as well, where value, sometimes values seem inflated, and sometimes values seem...
It's very difficult because, you try to be honest, you try to be genuine, and then things crop up that you see,
and you think it's...
and you're thinking,
that's interesting.
How can a painting that somebody cut his ear off to complete be worth all that money?
Not a Van Gogh fan.
Oh yeah,
Revolution of the live stream.
Beautiful work, yeah, but I know what people are going to say. Well, if people are prepared to pay it, then there it is.
This is the thing, isn't it? Value and worth and things like that. It's a very subjective thing, and I think it does come into what we do as well, because we do bespoke spoons for people, and we really, the value and the cost that we place on it for people, we judge it in terms of work. However, and we've never done this, the uniqueness then quite often of what the person is getting in some way should give it more value than we place on it. Because now, for instance, to get this reproduced would be quite challenging, really, wouldn't it? You know, just this Lovespoon that we're working on,
Yeah.
that would be challenging for anybody to get it replicated. So, yeah, value is a funny old thing.
Yeah.
So you can see we're just putting more detail. We're just going back over the detail, really. Just adding all of those stop cuts, reconfirming them then, redeveloping them. Here we are. Thomas Woodcarver's got some information to share with us.
Well, there we are. I mean, that's an interesting article there. We laminated. I don't know if it'll come through on there.
There we are.
You know, I mean, how many years ago was that now, Dave?
Wow, that's a good few years ago.
Oh, there we are. 2006. This is an auction. 2006.
15 years ago, from Christie's.
For anybody that doesn't know, Christie's is one of the top auction sites in London, and
I don't know how easy it'll be for people to read that. I'll try and angle it
well,
up.
you can explain the information. I mean, those are what does it tell you? The term literally means made of tree. The term treen literally means made of tree and refers to domestic objects turned and hewn from wood, dating from the medieval period through the 19th century. That's a good word. These sophisticated, sometimes simple, the two don't go together there, but there we are, and charmingly naive everyday objects are now rare survivors which sit well in contemporary interiors. Cool. A lot of, you can tell it's Christie's. This collection is concentrated on eating and drinking related objects and includes the best collection of drinking vessels ever to come to the market. The spoons illustrated are Welsh applewood examples carved as tokens of love and dating from the 18th century, from 1800 to 1860. The estimate on lots range from £200 to £20,000.
Well, now, I would say that the interesting point, because we're always coming across things. There's always an element of what's the word? We're interested in our tradition. We're interested in Lovespoon. We're interested in what's going on. What interests me in that article, Christie is a big deal, and I know that over here in the States, yes, I would have thought the US with the market with that. Yeah, I thought it would be big out in the US. Yeah, the thing that interests me in that article is that it says that the Lovespoons, and this is why Lovespoons have such high value when they are antiques. And I'm always interested in terms of the authenticity of Lovespoons, because there seem to be a lot more vintage Lovespoons.
And it's interesting here because
Now-
this is Christie's, Dave, if I can explain. This is Christie's,
Yeah.
and they're saying charmingly naive everyday objects are now rare.
Well, that's what I was
survivors.
coming on to. It's an interesting thing. The Lovespoons, the early Lovespoons, dating from the 19th century and older, seem to be becoming less rare. So I'll just leave that with everyone. Just an interesting. It's only an observation. We're not saying we're not telling you a specific thing, but it's only an observation from the simple wood carvers who carve Lovespoons. We're noticing that the rareness, I think that would be fair to say, wouldn't it, Did?
Yeah.
The rareness of vintage Lovespoons seems to be becoming less and less. So that's a really interesting idea. A bit of food for thought. Yeah. Any thoughts? We've got a few. Now there's a couple of interesting ones.
Well, it hits the market that they're referring to,
Yeah,
and we've had these for quite a while.
yeah.
1843.
There you go.
We think the wood is actually boxwood.
It's got to be something pretty tough.
Yeah. And to go with it
Got a fork.
is a fork.
Fork and a spoon.
And yet it's amazing how spoons are actually on some antique sites between 1800 and 1860, which is the date that those two are, and yet these spoons, which Christie's say
Are very
now rare survivors. It's amazing how some antique sites seem to pop up with this
So yeah.
period.
So it's a fascinating subject that we enjoy and that we're always learning about. And it's interesting. It would be fascinating to hear from somebody like Christie's, wouldn't
Well, the
it?
moral of the story is be very, be aware. Just be
Yeah.
careful. Anybody thinking of purchasing what is said to be.
Because it's a difficult one as well. How do you... Very interesting. I bet someone knows the ammonia trick. Yeah, it is indeed.
Anybody that doesn't, you can,
Yeah, look that one. Look that one up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go.
I learned that in my apprenticeship too, did.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to match old timber.
Yeah. But it's very interesting, see, because this is in some ways it's a growing market, isn't it? And it's very difficult then. I think the moral of the story, we're certainly not saying anything. We're not making any accusations, that's for sure. We're just making an observation that they do seem to be becoming less rare over the years. And it's a difficult thing then. Please, anybody buying that sort of thing, be aware that check the authenticity and have it all properly checked out before you purchase anything.
Especially buying online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without seeing it
That's right.
in the flesh.
Yeah. It would
You
be...
really can't.
It's a very difficult one when it comes to, and I'd be honest with the Lovespoon, I would say it's really difficult, the authenticity of Lovespoons.
And apart from manufacturing as well, you've also got the fact that they tell me that there are some people who actually go around breaking into places and stealing things.
Yeah, which you get now in
so you also
absolutely.
get that aspect as well. So
but it's ever so difficult, isn't it, in terms of how even the earliest Lovespoons, it's really difficult to categorically state that they even those are can be, you can't state that they are absolutely authentic because
we are seeing with our spoons now. That one there, that's dated 1969, the one we showed you. Yeah, and you can see how it ages.
Yeah.
Well,
like the ones that you showed that we've got dated 1843.
Yeah.
I was going to think,
Yeah.
They may be, they may not.
Yeah.
We're not too bothered either way. My question would be, is it the Lovespoon that is old or the wood from which it is made? Where are these antiques found? Good point, Arthur. I carved a spoon for someone recently. Married it was carved from 200-year-old oak. Yeah. It's basically the early Lovespoons. It's not the wood. And as I said, there's the ammonia trick. It's not the wood. It all comes down to when they were carved. So the earliest dated Lovespoon was dated 1667. That's when it was carved. So the story goes, and we take that as fact. And then you will get, as Christie's describe it, you will get rare examples that are centuries old. So, for instance, we've got spoons in our collection, same as the carver, that has been made from wood that is several hundred years old. So the idea of the age of a Lovespoon is basically when it was made. And there are examples throughout Wales, and there are examples that are being sold of Lovespoons that are hundreds of years old.
And we also know, antiques fluctuate in value.
Yeah.
Some of the furniture that we were purchasing.
But all the point that we're making is that vintage Lovespoons, the reason they have the value that they have is because they are old and they are rare. That's why they're so valuable. Because why would a Lovespoon have such a high value on it? It's because it's so rare.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
some of the apparent old.
well, that's all we're saying is that there seems to be more rare Lovespoons than there used to be, which doesn't make logical sense. So that's what it's what it comes down to. Yeah, the carver. I'm thinking, is that the oak we sent out? Because that's got a bit of a story. The oak we had from our local church, and that was
oh yeah, that was a couple of 100 years old.
couple of 100 years old. But the spoons that we made in that are not a few 100 years old. It's the wood. So we
I'll get some of that.
we wouldn't claim that to be hundreds of years old. The Lovespoon, it's the wood. And whilst there's a lot of history in it, it isn't actual Lovespoons that are centuries old. It's just the wood itself. There we are. So we're making progress here. I'm happy with where we've got to with the lion. And now we're just working on the initials entwined together in the hearts. And we're just giving a little bit of depth to those initials. We'll shape them. We'll also work on that daffodil. But this Lovespoon then is really taking shape. This is one of the last then bespoke spoons that I will work on before I go away. And I think I've got one more that I'm hoping to get completed. And then we're on to stock building and all sorts of other things before we're away. So we're just dropping that depth down. Same here, we just got to drop this. It's one of my favourite little effects really, is the entwined hearts. One that Thomas the Woodcarver first used on a Lovespoon quite a long time ago. It was difficult. We always wanted to get this on our website as part of our online shop, but because it relies on individual, more bespoke ones, it didn't work out. But thankfully, because we do a lot of bespoke spoons now, it fits into what we do with the bespoke range. So again, on the daffodil, just working on that trumpet. So we cut that down at like a 45-degree angle. And we continue shaping, we continue carving.
As a good example.
Let's have a little look. What do you got there? Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. So that would be
10 years.
Yeah. Felled.
Yeah, 10 years felled. You see the colouring?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'll put that alongside as well and see the different colouring.
Yeah.
An old.
What would you say? 50, 100 years old?
That's a draw panel.
So you've got 50 to 100 years, would you say?
Maybe there.
40 to 100, something like that.
This one, of course, with authentic woodworm. Where it is. The colouring.
I bet they even do that, do they? They probably even do fake woodworm on furniture, do they?
Oh yeah, well that's been done. It was very popular. What was the word they called
Distressed.
it? Yeah, but
distressed furniture.
Yeah, that was very popular in the 60s, 70s. But you can see the different colouring on it. And then if I turn it over...
You're saying it was the oak you sent me, so a clever salesman could talk up the age of the wood and omit that when the spoon itself was carved.
Yeah.
That's the carver on there.
There it is, look, you can see.
Yeah.
This was the wood from the church.
So that was the 200-year-old wood from the church.
And we're saying 200.
It could be more.
It could have been more.
Yeah.
Because we know it was refurbished.
It was used
in the Victorian age.
But it was also used for another job before as well.
So, fascinating.
Oh, that's wood. It is a fascinating material. And
in fact, the difficulty with this wood from the church is that the colour
is darker.
It's gone a quite dark honey sort of colour.
And that would have been the conditions as well that it was in.
And we can't now put this for our online
because it's
work.
What happens online if they're ordering the oak, they want the lighter coloured wood, so that oak is too dark. So despite the history, despite the significance of it, quite often we're always conscious that people would potentially complain about it because it is that much darker. So if we sent that to them as oak, they'd be sending back saying, "Oh no, I ordered the oak," and it is oak, but it's just a darker colour because of the time scale and the environment that it was used in. You know, the church being damp and things like that at different times and humid. That's why then as well you've got the issues with the woodworm. So we're just working on the petals of the flower, and we're getting towards.
It must be a bit of a relief now, though, Dave, to do the daffodil.
Yeah, well, that's what's in my. Oh yeah. You're thinking, yeah, great. That. I don't want to call it a headache, but it's not a headache. That challenge.
Yeah.
You're through the main challenge of it. All you've just got to be careful of. You don't want to go and make any silly mistakes and end up having to do your lion again. That's the stage you're at now. So yeah, it's nice doing, and it's nice then as well. Like the Pendragon, the full Welsh dragon, that has now become a very familiar carving, and so it's at a nice stage for us where when you get used to carving it and repeating that, it's just second nature. So I would say the first maybe even 20 times you're carving it, it's good to have the guidelines on there. Now you can just carve it instinctively. So it's a nice one to have. And that dragon has been extremely popular, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we just, with different things, with the change of the business, we've introduced certain carvings to what we do. The rose is another one. We do a couple of different versions now of the rose. And we never really carved the full rose before because we always did a Tudor rose, didn't we? But we've added a few other rose designs now, and they prove popular.
Yeah.
A nice thing for ourselves as well is because there's been a lot of interest, for instance, in the scroll sawing. We've developed that side of it, and we're sort of doing different things with the scroll sawing that we'd never really considered before.
Yeah.
But that's the nice thing with woodworking. There's always something new to do, and always different ways you can develop. So I think what I will do for the live stream now, I'm just going to finish off the daffodil, and then the eternity sign. We will finish this all off offline. So hopefully that's been interesting. Thank you again for joining us. As I said, it's going to be a few weeks where it may be a bit topsy-turvy, but hopefully everything will be back to normal. Definitely my plan is for everything to be normal back here with the YouTube channel in September. I am hopeful of finding Wi-Fi out in Spain when we're out there, and so hopefully we'll be able to do a couple of live streams for everyone to see, and we'll have some different ideas, some different things, because of course we won't have the tools in the same way, but we'll bring you some different ideas instead. So you can see we're just preparing that eternity sign. I'll turn it round and we just finish off the daffodil. Any final thoughts, Thomas Woodcarver?
No, hope to see everybody in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Time. Well,
Absolutely.
4 or 5 weeks time it might be.
I think that's one thing we will do as well, though, when we are back. I think we'll, like we did last year, we might do some live streams where we focus on the scroll saw again, as well as the carving. And, yeah. thanks for joining us, the carver again, and thank you, Arthur, as well. Fantastic to have you with us. Glad you enjoyed it. So we're just going to finish, just to talk through how we're going to finish this one. We got those stop cuts into position, and we're just going to shape that top like so. And then to do the daffodil, we just try to get it to go back at like a 45-degree angle. We bevel the leaves ever so slightly, just like so. Same with this one, just bevel that leaf, not the leaf, sorry, the petals. Just like so, just shaping it. We've got to put a little, so for the opening of the trumpet, we just do a couple of cuts, like so. I actually take that bit out. And then a little bit of extra detail on each and every petal. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. As I said, we see how next week we'll be travelling, so I wouldn't have thought we'd have a live stream for next week. But yeah, thank you all again, and we'll be back soon. Hope you all have a good few weeks. And